Welcome to A.T.A Talks About, your podcast show presented by the Aruba Tourism Authority, Create, and Sopimixstudio from the creative room here at A.T.A HQ. And we're back for another episode of A.T.A Talks About Season 2. And an exciting one it's going to be once again. We'll be getting some of the ins and outs of the biggest market of Aruba's tourism industry. Short recap, we're having a number of guests joining me for 12 episodes this season. From CEOs of the industry's largest organizations to partners, stakeholders, institutions, all who play an important role when it comes to the tourism and hospitality industry. Why? All in the hopes of getting a better glimpse and understanding of what it really takes to build a thriving industry such as the one we have here in Aruba. And today is no different. Thanks to today's guest, we get to dive into the largest market of the Aruban tourism industry, North America. The USA, Canada. Shall I add Mexico to it too, to the mix? Maybe. So in today's episode, we'll get to talk about the Aruba effect. How do you market the Aruba effect? Something so intangible, yet so special. This and much more. So let's get started and welcome my special guest for today, Sjeidy Feliciano, the Area Director for North America at Aruba Tourism Authority. Stephanie Casanova, Senior Vice President, Consumer Marketing, Zeno Group. And Matt Steinwald, Senior Vice President and Executive Creative Director at Big Village. Welcome.
Thank you, Tristan.
Thank you.
How's it been?
So far, so good.
So far, so good for the podcast, but so far, so good for Aruba this year?
Great. Aruba's doing great, as you know. Strong numbers. We are reaching what we're looking for, high-value visitors. As you can see through reports, ADRs are up, RevPAR is up, tourism receipt is up. So we're very excited. So we're hitting the target.
Awesome. And we're only 10 months in, so 2 months left for the year. So things are looking good. Sjeidy, I'm going to start with you and say congratulations because last season I introduced you with a different job title. So this year as Area Director for North America, congrats on that. How's it been going?
Super proud, super honored to be representing this amazing market, the biggest one for the island, as you know. But yes, I guess through my experience, I got this great opportunity to lead this market, to lead an amazing team, not only internal, but my agencies are amazing, I must say. They make my job so much easier. And very excited to work for my country, very excited to work for 111,000 people. So that's my why. As you know, Tristan, that's my why.
Yeah. How different is your current role compared to your previous role?
It is different in the way of leading in terms of the big picture. However, my focus was always working on the image of Aruba, how we promote Aruba on a global level back then. But now it's a little bit more specific to the target. But I must say, I still work for Aruba. I do represent the North American market, but working for the island, which is very important. But I must tell you that the last 20 years has built me to what I'm doing today. So I got this.
And working with the same passion.
For sure, for sure, a little bit different scope, but like I said before, living up to my why.
Awesome. So Sjeidy, who do we have here today with us?
Very special people. I got to handpick them. So we have Stephanie from the Zeno Group, which is the PR and influencer marketing company, and we have Matt, a very inspiring guy. You will understand why I picked him as well. From our creative and media team. So they will share with us today how to market the intangible.
Awesome.
The Aruba effect.
The Aruba effect. Awesome. Welcome. Stephanie, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, I would love to. Well, thank you for having me here today. It's so nice to be on island in Aruba talking about one of my favorite things, Aruba.
It's the first time you're in Aruba?
This is my second
time.
in Aruba.
Awesome. Welcome back.
It's my second time in Aruba, and I've been working with the team now for only not even quite a year, but I have almost a decade of experience in hospitality marketing. So I've been working really closely with on the hotel side of things. This is the first time I'm marketing a destination. So it's been a big switch. Always before it was through the lens of the hotel to the destination, and now it's taking a more global view of the destination itself, getting a little bit more ingrained in the culture and what makes it so special. So it's a bit of a pivot from what I was doing before. I worked at Marriott International for 5 years on brands like Renaissance and the Ritz-Carlton, which we have here on island. So it's been a really great way to kind of fuse my experience back together, and really driving through, as Sjeidy mentioned, public relations. So what Zeno Group is focused on is telling stories through earned media and creator influencer content. So
Awesome. So you're taking your experience from the other side and applying it now.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, and I love it. It's very exciting, and the great thing about marketing a destination is there's something new to discover every day, and the way by which we look at things through the Aruba effect gives us kind of a broad way to talk about things, but it helps us communicate what makes Aruba so special to that very important audience that you mentioned in the U.S. and Canada.
Awesome.
So.
The Aruba effect. We're going to hear a lot about it today, so we'll get into that in a bit. And we have Matt. How are you, Matt?
I am very well.
How's the weather back home?
It is not quite as hot as it is here. I think I've been here for a week. It's been about 90. I've been to Aruba maybe about 10 times in the last few years, which is an amazing benefit. And I get to see Sjeidy every time I come. But it's fall in New York. It's beautiful. The leaves are changing. You know, it's just a completely different experience. And you come down here, it's 90 degrees and always sunny, and it's wild. It's amazing to be able to see that difference. And you know, we live in New York, one of the primary markets. So the Northeast is the corridor. So to be able to come and visit and experience what our audience ultimately experiences is pretty valuable.
It's a kind of a reminder when you're here and why you're doing the marketing efforts you're doing and getting people back in Aruba.
Absolutely. And when we come here, we all tell our wives and friends that we're working, and we are, but none of them believe us.
They never believe us.
It's unbelievable. I have definitely been in Aruba, spending all my day in a hotel, working, preparing presentations and work, and just looking out the window. Oh, I wish I was on vacation, but it's still nice to be here.
So Matt, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So yeah, I have a funny story. I didn't start in advertising. I actually was an engineer when I studied, and I'm Canadian originally. I came to the United States after high school. My dad was American and my mom is French-Canadian, so I speak French. But I started working as an engineer and absolutely hated it. Girlfriend then, who's now my wife, was like, "You'd be good in advertising." I'm like, "Really? How do you do this?" I'm 20 years old. So I ultimately took her advice. I took some night classes at School of Visual Arts in New York, learned from some of the best creative directors in the business, and I couldn't believe how much fun it was. So I ultimately just got my foot in the door, and I spent half my career, about 10 or so years, doing traditional advertising, TV commercials, print ads, brand campaigns, things like that. And then the world started changing. I jumped to a social digital, more of a modern-minded agency. And then I've been in that world ever since. And now Big Village is really a combination of organic social content marketing, plus brand strategy and brand creative, plus media. So we kind of have it all together. And these are three big aspects of effective marketing that feed each other. So we have it in-house. And Sjeidy knows this because she works across all three.
Awesome. Out of curiosity, how did you end up working for Aruba or the A.T.A? How does this process work?
So basically, as Aruba, we hire agencies, and before that, it's a whole very meticulous process. We call it the pitch. So basically, we go through a company who helps us with that in the U.S. So they provide us a long list. Then we go through requirements to see if the agencies even want to participate, and then we have a short list, and then we have a review system in place. Whereas Aruba, it's a full official. So we have people from the office. So we have, for example, Ronella, the CEO. We have Sanjo. In my case, when I used to do PR, I was leading the PR pitch, the PR review. And so then you go through the list, you read a lot of proposals, a lot of RFPs, and then you have a short list. And then you start meeting the agencies. You go to New York, you have like what you call the chemistry meetings, where you talk to them, they present you what are the plans for Aruba, and then you go through them, and then it's a short list, and then it's the final pitch. So they got to come to Aruba, the experience, then go back to their plans, refine their plans. So it's a process that can take from 8 to 6 months for sure. And then we choose the agency that we want to represent us. So it's a tedious process, a long one, but so far it's working really well for us. So, and from time to time we evaluate, we go back and tell the agency, okay, after 2 to 3 years, we were seeing this, let's work together on that, let's evolve. And the great thing about the period we're in is the agencies are working together, because as you understand, they're two different agencies. They have different philosophies, values. So we make them work together because integration is very important.
Yeah.
I mean, we are a small island. We have limited budget, so we have to make sure that we leverage on each discipline. So that's more or less of the process, how we get to do agencies in the different markets. And this is not unique to the U.S. It happens in other markets as well. But
No, it's out of curiosity, but I can imagine us here in Aruba. Of course, we do not know the process, the ins and outs of how the A.T.A works. So I can imagine people thinking, hey, you know what? I want to work with this agency, so I'll handpick them. But there's
No.
there's a process behind it, and
it's an even
and
legal process because it's tendering. It's you have to provide a whole documentation how you chose them, because by the end of the day we have to respond to auditors. We have a whole process that we have to comply with.
All right. So while we're talking about the process, can you share how that process on your end works? So the pitch.
Yeah, and pitching is really part of our business. We do it. We work with many brands and many partners. The benefit is everything that we learn with all of those different projects kind of becomes our intellectual property, and we can apply that to Aruba if it's relevant. So we basically receive these opportunities, and based on the opportunity and the fit, we decide if we want to participate, and then we're along for the journey. And usually it starts pretty basic information, number of employees and previous work, existing clients, things like that. But ultimately, the thing that's most exciting is when we get the brief, we get the challenge, and we're able to just demonstrate our thinking and meet the clients and start to work together. It's very competitive, so I'm a competitive guy, so I love that aspect. I love to pitch, and we have a lot of people that love to pitch because clients come and go in our business. We love to keep great clients for as long as we can, but you always have to be ready to win another piece of business, ready to show your thinking, and it's you kind of get to beat the other agencies. So there's a big thrill for us to have an opportunity that we wanted to win desperately, and Aruba was one of those opportunities. Sjeidy knows this. We love working with Aruba, and to win that piece of business, and then to have not only the clients, but in this case, the country really benefiting from our expertise in our work is extremely rewarding.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I think Zeno has also been lucky to work with Aruba now for going on 6 years. So while I'm newer, Zeno has been working on this the same way that Matt was describing. You go through this pitch process, and then you get the great news if you're awarded the business. And just as they did, who wouldn't want Aruba as their client, especially when you have someone like Sjeidy and the rest of her team working with you. And then once you get the good news that you're awarded the business, to Matt's point, you can leverage a lot of what you learned or what you presented in the pitch, and then you come up with your plan. And right now we're in the throes of our annual planning process, where we really get to hone in on, this is what you've hired us for. We're subject matter experts, in my case, in earned and creator. So we want to create an always on news engine. We want to host press trips. We want to host creator trips. We also help you with issues management. So how are we going to take our budget and map it out to a plan to most effectively hit all of these things for you and spread the positive word of Aruba through the campaign message, which is the Aruba effect, and get that intangible into, the hearts and minds of U.S. and Canadian travelers. So that's the exciting part, is putting it into action.
Yeah. So I guess the pitch is just the beginning, and then comes the real work,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Then comes onboarding, which is
Oh,
another
that's
story.
That's another step. Yeah. No. So we can talk about the process. I think for hours, but let's get into the story of the day, and that's how to market the intangible, the Aruba effect. So we've been hearing about the Aruba effect for quite some time now. I've seen it in presentations. I've seen it during the global travel conference recently, and it's quite intriguing. And I think you nailed it in defining what it really is that we have to offer here in Aruba. So before we get into how to market the Aruba effect, let's get into what is the Aruba effect. Let's explain to the audience what is this and how do you define it? How did you come up with it?
Yeah.
I will give the word to Matt. He can explain it really well, but I can just kick off and say it's a feeling. It's a feeling that everybody has been talking about it, thinking about it, but it took us some quite time to actually give it a name. So Matt will explain.
Yeah. I'm going to take a couple steps backwards, and then we'll fast forward
Let's
to
do that.
today. So when we started working with Aruba, it was our media company led by Carl Kruger, who was helping Aruba get through the pandemic. And on the strength of that work, we were invited to work on the creative. And the first thing we do is understand the brand. We want the truth. We want to understand the good, the bad, and the ugly. Give us everything. So research is the beginning, and then ultimately we're looking to have work that works really well. The two big challenges that were laid out by the A.T.A, one was differentiation. We're in the Caribbean. There is a really big problem. We call it the Sea of Sameness. All the Caribbean islands have beautiful beaches and culture and food and the whole thing. And the second thing is our audience. We were challenged to change the traditional audience to what we call a high value audience. So we're looking for a more affluent, a higher spending visitor, because there's only so many hotel rooms, so many seats. If we can get people on the island that have more money to spend, then it benefits the island. So those were the two, differentiation and shifting to our high value audience. So we start with differentiation. We look at any brand, and Aruba is a brand, in four different ways to really understand the forces that are affecting it. We look at the competitive marketplace. We look at the culture at large. We look at the brand itself, the Arubans, the people who keep coming back to Aruba, and then our desired audience. And so what in doing research, we did a ton of it, and we ingested a lot of material. We start looking for insights, these actionable truths that seem to be leading us towards, in this case, how can we define and differentiate this to this audience that can see ads from any Caribbean island. So I'm going to go around those four, and I'm going to explain to you the insight that started to lead us towards the Aruba effect.
So before you continue, why is this important not only to me, but I think our audience is, if we can understand the why, it helps us as locals also become or remain the ambassadors for Aruba and continue that effort that A.T.A is putting in. So I think this is important. Great.
Consistent messaging.
Exactly.
Yeah, consistent, and if it's truthful and differentiated, then all of your advertising efforts are going to be easier for you to defend. So you can say anything, but now this is where I lose the plot, but I'm gonna come back in a second. My favorite definition of a brand is that it's a promise delivered, because it begs two questions. What are you promising, and how are you delivering it? So think about a hotel that promises luxury but delivers poor service. So is that a strong brand? No, because your promise is getting an A, but your delivery is getting a C.
Yeah.
So for Aruba, we want to know, what are we promising and how are we delivering? And it's very hard to deliver against something that is not truthful. So be honest and just find the compelling differentiated truth that you can basically deliver against. And if you can deliver against, what's great about it is your advertising starts to build a reputation, brand equity. People start to know you for something. And then when people believe you, and then they take a risk and they come to Aruba and they leave, they say, you know what? Yes,
It's true.
that is it was delivered against, and they tell their friends. So it's not about advertising, it's about the entire experience of Aruba. The product on island has to deliver against the promise, and the marketing has to support that.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
back to what led us to the Aruba effect. So, this is a couple years ago. Within the category, within all of the islands advertising, you saw a lot of competitors that were talking about the island, the beach, the food, the culture. It was all us, us, us. And if you're an American watching these commercials, it felt like a brochure, where you're just seeing all of the activities you could do, and everything looked beautiful, and everything was blue. And these are color corrected footage. This is Photoshop beautiful models. It is very easy to see. Okay, I'm being advertised to, and everything felt like you can spend money here and spend money on this and spend money on that, and that is not what motivates or inspires people. So we saw a lot of this kind of brochureware. And then Lindsay, who is our brand strategist and is brilliant at uncovering these kind of insights, saw that no one was talking about the other part of travel, which is travel is it opens your mind, your perspectives. You see the world, you meet new people, you get out of your own loop, and you start to grow as a person. Nobody is talking about that. Everyone's just talking about the water and the sand and the food and things like that. So that's interesting. So that was the kind of competitive insight, was really centered around transformation, personal transformation. Then we moved to what was happening in culture. There was a shift. You remember when everyone used to just travel to take an Instagram photo, and it was very surface level, and it was like, I think the world had changed. We'd been through a lot, and people were looking for more deeper meaning and putting the phone away. So you were no longer kind of traveling to show off where you are. You were actually traveling more for yourself. So that's interesting. And these start to point towards an answer, which already we know is the Aruba effect. But if you humor me, I'm going back a couple years. So now we talk to Arubans, and we talk to very frequent visitors. And we know that it's one of the most revisited islands. That is very intriguing. That's a great insight. Why do people keep coming back? And we summarized it almost as like, and there's some great quotes, and I can read some of them directly from the research. There's you, and then there's Aruba you. So there's Matt, and I'm a dad, and I'm running around, and I'm working. And then when I'm here, I'm a little bit different. I'm a little happier. I'm a little lighter. And people notice this, and they talk about it. So you want to come back and kind of become a little
Experience
bit
it one
more
more time, and
Aruban
one more
every
time,
time.
and
So
one more
very
time.
interesting, right? So again, that's an insight from the brand and the truth of visitors and of Arubans. And then the last one was this high value audience. Like, who are they and what are they seeking? So we have a research company. Andy Davidson heads up our research and started to really uncover truths about this high value audience. They are seeking one of a kind, meaningful, and unexpected. They want to pay for feeling like they belong somewhere. So that's a summary of a lot of work that started pointing towards this idea that there's something about Aruba that actually transforms you, right? So you can see how short the bridge is from that research and those insights to the Aruba effect. So for us, the Aruba effect has been to ignore the physical beauty of the island, not to ignore it, but to not paint it as the reason to come. There's a bigger, more important, more impactful reason to come. So Aruba's beauty is not the beautiful beaches and water and sand and weather. It is not that. It's what it does to you. It's this transformation of you becoming a bit of a happier person, changing from within. And then what became really interesting is that when you change from within, like what next, and what does that mean for Aruba? So when you see the natural pool is amazing, right? You could look at it and say, thousands of years of evolution has made this natural pool where the waves crash,
Splash
and
yeah.
you can just sit there and just be in. Or we would look at it and say, this is two brothers bonding, finding a bond, and looking out for each other, right? So you're like, oh man, they happen to be doing it in this amazingly beautiful place, but it's, you travel with your family, they're a different family. And when you bring them to Aruba and they're able to experience these things, they change. So we wouldn't in our advertising see beautiful water and sand. We would see two friends like just creating and sharing a memory because they love each other dearly, things like that. So the emotional effect that the island gives you was the first thing we captured. And then we would say, oh, and look how beautiful it is and what you can do in Aruba to get that effect. So it flipped a little bit the narrative, and where I think the Aruba effect becomes like really inspiring is that it grows from the foundational brick, which is come to the island and you'll feel it. Okay, that's great. The second thing that is true from the research and that we've all experienced is that when you leave, your vacation doesn't actually end. Like something about Aruba stays with you. Why? Because it's kind of growing in you. You're becoming a little bit of a
that
different
feeling,
person,
yeah.
right? So now you go back home.
And you're homesick.
Uh-huh.
And and it becomes your second home. It's so welcoming, and you take this happiness home with you. Now you're happier at work. You're happier with your neighbors and with your friends and your family. So that's interesting. So we started thinking, well, visitors that come through this island are actually like exporting this happiness. Every visitor is taking, and there's no end to the happiness. There's no shortage of happiness that this island creates. So then we started thinking, well, this is amazing. We are actually changing the world one visitor at a time. We're exporting happiness across the planet, and the world needs that. And it also needs examples like Aruba, where you can see a country that is extremely diverse, that just permeates happiness and acceptance and welcome and gratitude. So you start to see the Aruba effect can be as kind of tangible as come to the island and feel different from within. And then you can say it stays with you. And then you can say, and we're actually here changing the world. So that stuff gets us very excited, and it shows the size and the power of the Aruba effect. It's not just a campaign. It's actually a platform on which we all kind of work, which makes it really exciting.
So,
And Tristan,
yes,
I
tell me.
have something to announce.
Okay, all right.
The Aruba effect is going global.
It's going global because this was a North America.
North America and European campaign.
Mm-hmm.
But since September, it has been decided that Aruba effect is going global.
Awesome. So
exciting.
that's congrats to the entire team for doing such a good job on creating the Aruba effect. Actually, Aruba creating the Aruba effect, but you as a team, everyone identifying this and creating great campaigns that everyone was not only impressed but also inspired. Because I was there for the presentation. And I got chills, and I'm getting chills once again. Seeing how you transformed this feeling into words that people could understand what we are actually talking about, and how we're going to continue promoting Aruba, market Aruba outside. So congrats to the entire team, and congrats on the big announcement, taking it global. Stephanie, talk about how you take something that's created, so the Aruba effect, and how do you incorporate it in your strategy and efforts?
It's definitely an extra challenge to be able to market something that's intangible through earned channels, right? So what we're charged with is public relations, and our primary vehicle is doing that is driving media, earned headlines, getting us in Aruba in the news in a positive light. And Matt made a comparison of how he thinks about brands as a promise delivered. Another way I like to look at it is I've heard it being said that brand is something that people say about you when you're not in the room, right? So what people are saying about you while you're not there is a way I look at it through the lens of earned too, right? We don't have 100% control over what the media say. We arm them with the messages. We have a solid campaign. We know that this message and the positioning of Aruba is much stronger if it's not just differentiated from the competitors, but that it's wholly ownable, authentic, or intrinsic to who Aruba is. And luckily for us, the Aruba effect is just that, right? So what we really want to do is make that emotional connection with travelers, because a tangible product, you might wear Nikes because you love them. You might just like the shoe. You might like the way it looks, or you might. I was really spot on with that one. Tristan is wearing Nikes if you can't see them. But I bet there's something about how it feels for you, what the emotional connection is that you have, and you probably have preference for it, right? With a destination or travel, it's much more intangible. You don't have a product. So to latch onto something like the Aruba campaign, where we can get that credit for building emotional connections with people, the repeat visitors definitely stuck with me when I started working on this too. So now it's, how do we take that message and seed it with media in a way that will resonate with them and let them know, to their readers, if you visit Aruba, you can go see the culture, you can see the beach, you can eat the food, and when you come back, you're almost a better version of yourself than before you left, because the Aruba effect, the people, the culture is what really sticks with you. So we're working to tell that message through a much different lens, and some of that is all just done through creative pitch angles or how we package it together if you have something on island, and other times we're bringing press down here because nothing speaks better than experiencing it for yourself. So we've become experts in itinerary planning to kind of pack in as much as we can with seeing the island, witnessing all of those amazing things that Matt described that really does set us against the competition, but again feels like very authentic to who Aruba is, allows the press to experience for themselves so that they can relay that emotional connection to their readers. So we have one more extra layer. We can't, package it up and just ask the press, write these 3 bullets the way we want and showcase who we are. But when we have a lot of successes when we bring folks down on island and they experience it, and then they become one of those repeat guests as well.
Because those trips happen a couple of times a year, right?
Yes.
So take us through that process. Who do you choose? How do you choose?
Sure. So we like to have a mix of both group press trips and individual press trips, because each press, just like us, all have their different personalities and way they like to travel and experience things. So we theme the trips to make sure that they align with our segments, which I know Matt will probably go into a little bit more detail later. But they align with that high value target audience, but also those big kind of nuggets that we know help promote Aruba. So culinary, or escape to the beach, or something that might be more relaxing, or on the converse more adventurous. So we have 4 group press trips throughout the year, where we have our portfolio, or a Rolodex, if I can date myself, of our key media contacts across consumer, lifestyle, travel publications, sometimes food, depending on the outlet. And we'll invite them to do 3 to 4 days of kind of like intensive island immersion. But again, it must feel like a vacation. It must feel like something that they would want to do on their own so that they can accurately describe it to readers. There are some press that like to work on their own timetable or take a trip by themselves, so we make sure that we also have at least that many individual press trips as well. Again, we're proactively reaching out to press to see if they're interested, but because we've done such a good job marketing the Aruba effect, we also have a lot of press coming to us asking us to come visit the island.
A lot of requests, I can imagine that.
A lot.
Stand in line, people.
Phone is off the hook, trying to build those in. So we do tailor according to their likes, to their interests, if they have food restrictions, if they're more or less adventurous, so that we can tailor the Aruba experience to what they're most looking to experience, but always under that big kind of campaign platform of the Aruba effect.
Stephanie, maybe you can share about our creators program as well?
Yes, and so that we also do the same with, creators do prefer normally to come by themselves.
By the way, creators is a new
word for
influencers.
Okay, so we're moving away from
Yes.
We're
the
moving
term.
away
They
from
want to
the
be called
term.
creators
All right.
because they're content
so
creators.
they can join me. Because I'm a creator.
That's exactly right. Do you have a drone? No.
No, I don't, unfortunately.
Not yet.
But Zeno has what we call a creator scorecard, where we actually take all of what Sjeidy was talking about, the rigor that goes behind the pitch process. It's very similar. We go a lot of rigor. We're looking at their audience. Do they align with our target audience? We're looking at their engagement rate. We're looking at the quality of their post. We're doing background checks on them to really make sure that they are representative of the Aruba effect. So we have a whole bunch of parameters that go into place before we even decide, yes, we would like to contract you. And then Zeno takes on all of the contracting for these creators, formerly known as influencers. And it is a formal contract where we line out exactly how many posts that they'll give us, whether it's a reel, a static post, in-feed carousel, story. It's all mapped out. Most of these content creators are just primarily focused on their social channels. Most that we're working with currently don't really have blogs, so that's really focused on the content that we're getting. And we've had 2 recent creator trips that really, I think, sparked a lot of not just social conversation, but also on island. And one was Jeremy Austin. He stayed at the Ocean Villas and did this amazing kind of drone footage of the plunge pool. It was like you were melting right into the water. It just made you feel like you wanted to dive in and experience it for yourself. And I think the feeling was, wow, I didn't know Aruba had that, that sense of discovery that you're getting because you're able to watch this creator do it. And on the flip side, we also had a family content creator couple. They're called Roma Roo on their social channels, and they stayed with us at the Ritz-Carlton Aruba. And again, just showed how much the island has to offer, whether you have a family or you're coming on a romantic vacation, or maybe you're a solo traveler, there's really something for everyone. So they showed a much different side of the island. So again, we're trying to tell all of those different stories, but it needs to be intrinsic to who Aruba is. We put a very thorough process in place to make sure we're getting the right content in front of the right audience with the right message.
So let's continue talking about the output, the campaigns that you recently launched, but also about the results. So what are you seeing? What are you getting back as data, and how do you take this into the upcoming campaigns or for 2024 and beyond?
Maybe I would suggest we elaborate on the world's easiest job, which we actually did launch earlier today on social media. Tristan, you got a chance to see it.
I got a sneak peek yesterday, so
and I think you love it.
Yeah, I did. I was thinking about it when Matt was talking. I asked Matt about the weather, and
do you want the world's easiest job, Tristan?
I don't think I could survive as a weatherman.
Maybe Stephanie can elaborate on the results. Yeah.
I think when Matt was saying that we always see the sea of sameness, and so a lot of our challenge or our charge is how do we come up with collaborative, big ideas across both agencies where we have a story to tell for earned, but there might be creative or paid that's really helping us with the launch moment. In this case, we know that Aruba has more sunny days than any other Caribbean island, and the weather is so good that you actually don't have a weather person, or you did not have a weather person before we launched this campaign. So we went out with it from an earned perspective in that last grueling month of winter in the north, especially in the northeast of the United States, which is one of your key markets. People in Boston or New York are just, they cannot take one more dreary day, rain or snow. So we made sure that we launched it in a moment where the consumers were feeling that angst of the winter. And we went ahead and launched the campaign through both paid social and earned outreach for the world's easiest job, which was a call for submissions for folks to submit a 30-second video of them delivering the weather. It is a high barrier to entry to record a video that's 30 seconds long. So we set a benchmark for ourselves knowing that this was not something easy. You don't just fill out a form or check a box. Like, you need to deliver something. we set a benchmark of 60 submissions. We thought we could get 60 quality submissions from this. And we ended up getting 678 contest entries. So we completely blew our benchmark out of the water, and now have a new benchmark for all of our future campaigns. So that we did that to ourselves.
Raising the bar.
And then from an earned perspective, we always say we want to drive headlines, but it's not just any headline. It's what are the media saying? What does the headline say? And in this case, the exact messaging, which was, again, collaborative effort across both agencies and the creative agency coming up with a lot of this copy and that fun creative hook that we could then leverage, all of the headlines were almost word for word exactly what the team wrote, which is like check, check, check on a campaign. And like I mentioned before, we have no control of what the media write. We can only do our best job to package it up and deliver it to them. And every headline is, do you want the world's easiest job? Well, Aruba has it, something like this. Would you like to be Aruba's next weather person? So we were blown away that we came up with this. The creative angle of applying for a job or something like this works really well in media, and we knew it. But we took a step back and made sure that it really, really resonated with Aruba and your audience. And Matt, when you were just sharing on the social content that we get on Aruba channels is like any other too. We know this audience is engaged for this type of content. So proud to say that it was the most successful campaign that Zeno has ever worked on in conjunction with the A.T.A, and it surpassed every single benchmark that we set. And thanks to that campaign, actually the yearly KPIs that we set for ourselves from Earned and Creator, we've already surpassed.
That. Great.
So
awesome
we were super happy with it. And again, that great mix of telling a story through Earned, but of course, huge chunks of it came to life through social as well, which just launched yesterday.
Yeah, and we talked earlier about the process of handpicking agencies to meet your needs, right, Sjeidy? And having been in advertising for several decades now, you sit on what they would call IATs, interagency teams. It sounds awful, and it normally is awful because every and these could be for big clients. Like some of the most challenging ones are for the bigger global brands, you know. And so they have a media company and a PR company and a social company and a digital company and an above-the-line company, and it goes on. And everyone sits around a table smiling and pretending to collaborate, and then they stab each other in the back trying to win business from each other or get all the headlines or be the hero because everyone's in service of the client. And what the A.T.A has done, it has completely disarmed that. They've created a table in which two different agencies that have different ownership and different metrics that we're measured by can get along really, really well and collaborate openly on these projects. And so for something like The World's Easiest Job, we sit back in awe at how great Zeno is at breaking through news cycles and timing things and understanding the art of getting people to write things on your behalf in a way that you're hoping them to be written. And so that's their superpower.
You know
right?
what we call this, Matt? The Aruba effect.
No, we collaborate even when we're not in Aruba. Yeah.
But it stays with you.
But it does.
So you take it back home.
It does. But yeah, we did. We helped to kind of when the winning weatherman was chosen. We helped to create content based on the submission. How can we make this fun and engaging? And when you post it, and please everyone go to the social handle and read the comments that people leave on the social content, because a lot of brands get hate. People are looking to complain. For Aruba, and again, back to Promise Delivered, the comments are lovely. They love it. They love the Aruban sense of humor. We love the Aruban sense of humor. The World's Easiest Job is a fun, don't take yourself so seriously, but at the same time, Stephanie and I are high-fiving because now it's not just the submissions, but how many people saw those headlines in the Reach, and all they're going to remember is Aruba has weather that doesn't even require a weatherman. It's so good. It's great. So we're doing what we need to do on your behalf, but we're able to do it with that Aruban sense of humor.
And when do you know you're successful? When other people are talking good
about
stuff
you. Yeah.
about you. So that's why social in this aspect is very important, because we're not saying it, others are saying it, which makes it more credible.
So I think creating this Aruba effect and marketing it, you're doing a good job. So congrats so far.
Great job. Sorry, you said good, but you
Good.
meant
Well,
You
we can
meant
also,
great.
that's also something about Arubans. We know we can do better. So it's like, no, you're doing a great job. But of course, good things, great things, people like to mimic and copy. So how do we protect what we're marketing right now, or how do we stay steps ahead on the competition? Because I can imagine, like, maybe Curacao and Bonaire would say, hey, we have the Curacao effect, which is maybe better than the Aruba effect. But
so. You want to start?
Actually, we make sure that we keep the agencies in check, and we make sure that we follow trends. Because a lot of times these ideas come from, of course, your reasons to believe as a destination, as an island, but also what's happening out there. So we make sure that everybody is on top of things happening culturally. So Matt has something that he wants to share with you in a bit. But basically, we make sure that we are up to innovation. We make sure that we know what's going on in the digital world, artificial intelligence. So just make sure that we're on top of things and on all levels. And we make sure as client to keep everybody challenged, and we want new things and we push, but of course for the best of everybody.
okay.
Yeah, I would say keeping the work as current and culturally relevant as possible makes all of our jobs easier. But the foundation we laid is that, we strongly believe, based on the research, that the promise that you'll come to Aruba and be changed is true, and that you can go on the island and meet it. Ultimately, the Aruba effect has everything to do with Arubans. So if you don't have Arubans on your island, you may not have the effect. And if you want to make that promise and then bring people to your island, and then they say, you know what? You took me from the airport to the all-inclusive resort, and when I looked to the right and the left, I did not see happiness on the island. And you do see that, and Americans know this, and they don't want to feel like they're part of, a cultural problem. Mm-hmm. So that's the importance of the research, and copycats will come. It's a compliment, but they will change campaigns every year. We will defend this hill. We will die on this hill because it is ours more than anyone else's. And so if we keep on doing this and doing it in innovative ways, then we stay ahead of the game.
Awesome.
You can't stop. So
It's
one of the
who we are.
ways, yeah.
It's who we
And
are.
because it's true. I think that's the
That
most
is
important.
that is the key. And so when we jump to something where extremely World's Easiest Job was really fun activation earlier in the year. We're about to launch, like, literally
Give it to
days
us,
and
Matt.
weeks,
Give it to
the
us.
next
Sjeidy's been teasing
big
us.
brand activation. So what we have, what it's like to go on a vacation and get a souvenir, a T-shirt or a tchotchke, and bring it home. It's like souvenir shopping. It's pretty classic. Everyone understands that. But what do we know about the Aruba effect? When you leave,
It stays with you.
thank you. So we are launching a free souvenir. You might be interested. A souvenir that stays with you.
Let's challenge him.
Wow.
What's a
Putting me on the spot right
What's
here.
a souvenir that would stay with you forever and ever?
Forever and ever. Can I take a wild guess?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm going to reveal. I already had a sneak peek,
Okay, so you're not guessing.
so I'm not guessing, but I'm going to tell because it's stuck with me. Getting a tattoo, and
Yes.
and I must say, wow.
So there is an amazing precedence that people come to Aruba and get tattoos of Aruba. I mean, what bigger compliment to your brand or to your country that just a visitor will come and say, this is so special to me that I'm going to get it inked on my body forever. So we created this program called Tattoo Veneers. And as you know, tattoos are very popular, very respectable, high value, adults all have tattoos. We won't say who at the A.T.A. has embarrassing tattoos, but there's also trends of people going and seeking out artists and going on trips to get a tattoo. So it's interesting. You see all these trends, and here we are. We're making a claim now, not only that we have the most consistent, amazing weather with the world's easiest job, but that when you come here, we're coming back with you. And so Tattoo Veneers is kind of a two-part brand activation. One part, which is going to be really fun, so don't release this podcast, and give us a couple weeks. But we are going to have a man on the street stunt where in and around Palm Beach, we will be coming up to tourists, offering them a free souvenir, telling them that it's a tattoo veneer, and offering them a free tattoo on the spot, but they have to decide right away.
Wow.
So it's going to be fun. And most people are going to say no, but will it be amazing to see them ponder it? And
the surprise on their faces.
The surprise. So this is the stunt part of it. So we'll have camera crew, we'll have a host. We're working with Zeno to make sure that everyone who's kind of working on this understands that this is internet culture. This is social culture. We've seen these stunts before. They're really fun, and we haven't seen a tattoo veneer stunt before. So being first to do something will be really exciting. If you choose to take to get a tattoo, go to a local tattoo parlor, and we're going to continue to record your story. We want, while you're getting your free tattoo veneer, we want to hear why did you come to Aruba? How often do you come here? What does it mean to you? So those human stories is, again, so you see how these brand activations start to come together. And then, as we're working on this, Zeno then kind of takes the onus of getting headlines and getting people to want to participate off island as a challenge to bolster the idea.
Yeah, because I think in certain points we know what media are going to write about, and this man on the street, it is so fun. The stories are going to be awesome that are told, and the surprise and delight of it makes it so special. But it doesn't allow the great opportunity for media to write about it. So how do we ensure that we still get those headlines? And a lot of times what we'll do is we'll create a consumer call to action. It gives the journalist a reason to write. So in this case, we're going to preview what's happening, but also open it up for all U.S. and Canada residents, except Quebec. I'm sorry, the French Canadian in the room, but the rules and regulations in that area are a little bit more difficult.
I won't tell my mom.
But this having it available in a broad way to consumers helps media write. So we added that extra element just to ensure that we could do storytelling from an earned perspective, and to Matt's point, just have a little bit more power to the punch,
Awesome.
and getting that message out
Great.
there.
So this is a campaign launching in a couple of weeks, maybe already launched by the time we
Yes.
launch
Yeah,
this
yeah.
episode. 2024, what else is in store? We're going global with the Aruba Effect. What can you tell us?
We are basically still in the planning session, so we're not able to give away too much, but we have great stories in place and a lot of continuation of what is already successful. So I can give away a little bit. We're thinking about the Weatherman, but a little bit more in a different perspective, but stay tuned.
Alrighty. Anything you would like to share, Stephanie and Matt?
I mean, we're gearing up for year 3 of the Aruba effect, and I think the insight that we've really landed on how to define what stays with you is very exciting territory for us to play with in 2024 planning. So I think from our earned and creator perspective, there's richer, deeper, more meaningful stories that we're able to tell with the evolution of this campaign. So we're excited for next year. But to Sjeidy's point, we maybe won't give all the
I'm trying, folks. I'm
details.
trying.
Yeah, you're doing a good job. One thing that is a marked improvement, because every year we're trying to kind of do better and work better, is the way that we are unifying all of our efforts and creating almost like a global annual brief and what do we want 80 or 90% of our work to be in service of, and then bringing in more and more partners, because it's very complex what the A.T.A. does. It's not just make some ads and it all works out. There are many partners, and there's B2B, there's co-op, there's email sales. It's endless, and so the more people that can understand the Aruba effect and make it their own within the guidelines that we all set together, then all of a sudden now you're really talking about a brand, because you can look at all the aspects of what a brand does. And if there are weak links in it, then it hurts. Mm-hmm. So you want to try to strengthen and consistently tell that message. Again, we are just protecting this hill. We planted a flag 3 years ago. We've evolved it, and now we are just fortifying it so that the Aruba effect, or the notion that you can take a trip and become a happier person as a result of that trip, and it's a lasting effect, we want to own that. We want Aruba to own that. So that's why the more people that are helping us bring the Aruba effect to life, and the more we're on the same page about it, and that the more that the Aruba effect gets to be redefined by what's happening in the world, which is something that we are doing, the stronger we are.
So that is a call to action to everyone following us. Continue spreading that Aruba effect. Thank you for sharing. So before we close this episode, I'd like to go into a segment I call Wins and Fails. And I'd like to ask each one of you if you'd like to share it from recent memory. And it could be anything. What you see as a win and something that you see as a fail that we can improve on, or maybe shouldn't be happening. Kind of putting you on the spot, right?
All right, I'll put a win out there. I'll think about a fail, but here's a win. We in North America right now, it's football season, and Americans are crazy about football, and it's not just the NFL.
It's also Taylor Swift.
Yes, Taylor Swift is helping, but the NFL didn't need any help, and now now it's gone to a whole nother level. And college football is such it's rooted in American culture, and college football come together. So Saturday is for college football, and Sunday is for the NFL, and of course both of them are taking other nights, as these things go. But we are very excited that the media that is going to run for the Aruba effect is going to start running on NBC for Sunday Night Football and college football. So awesome. And so it's very exciting. In our primary markets, the highest performing, because the Aruba effect, we didn't even get into scratching the surface of how our segments, our audience is segmented, right? And to really put your media dollars to best use, we want to meet people with the right message, the right people, what they care about. And so we're basically hitting our target markets, primary markets, with the highest performing Aruba effect videos that we have, and that's happening this fall. So very exciting that you're in that company.
Is this something I can see on TV, or will it be in stadiums, or?
So because we don't want to waste the money, it would be on connected TVs,
okay,
but in the primary markets. Like we don't want to be advertising nationally and things like that, because obviously it's we have our markets, and we know where we want to spend our money.
A good thing is we got NBC, I believe, from New York, so maybe I got a chance to see it.
There we go. I'm going to go along with the wins here, and maybe something that could, if not done right. No, everything we do is always right, Sjeidy? But we also celebrated the 5th anniversary of Aruba I Do this past August. Another super successful event and campaign for us. I know we had a record number of folks that actually renewed their vows, 300, which I can't remember the percentage increase, but it was quite a lot more. In the U.S., though, we do know that vow renewals sometimes aren't really understood. People don't always understand what the purpose is, and in this whole new genre of reality TV and a lot of couples renewing their vows as part of these reality TV programs, think The Housewives, it's called the vow renewal curse. And every time a housewife gets their vows renewed, they end up in divorce. So there is this little bit of how do we debunk this myth that vow renewals are actually a positive for your wedding. And even though you might watch this reality and see that happen, it's just one couple. So this year we decided to commission a survey so that we had our own proprietary data that actually showed to us that folks that renewed their vows actually did set themselves up for more successful, longer lasting, happier marriages. So we used that nugget of a data point to informed our earned pitches and really, again, kind of knocked our benchmarks out of the water. It worked really well. And then we did couple it with a celebrity couple in that reality world, had them come down, renew our vows for us, and got interviewed in all of the big kind of pop culture outlets that we don't necessarily get to tell the Aruba story in. So we found a very interesting way in, a fun way in, and said, we're going to debunk this myth. We're going to show, and Aruba is the perfect way to show that this will set you up for the happiest marriage that you can possibly have. So
Awesome.
Aruba I Do was another win.
Awesome. And happy to hear that you debunked a myth. I think season 1, we debunked a lot of myths here on during the episodes. Great.
So I guess I'm left with a fail.
No, or a win. I mean, if
I
we
can
can
do
keep
the
it
fail.
positive.
I can do the fail one. That unfortunately we didn't have enough time to go through everything that we do.
Exactly.
So that means you will invite us back
For
to
a
give
part
more
2?
information. But no, it was super great. I mean, we wanted to share much more, but it was a great way. And like you said before, this is a great way to make the community aware of what is the Aruba effect, so they can contribute. They do without even knowing, just by being who they are. So we thank everybody. I mean, on behalf of the North American market, Aruba, we're proud, we're honored, and like I said, we got this.
Awesome. And on that note, Sjeidy, Stephanie, and Matt, thank you. Thank you for joining me for another episode of A.T.A. Talks About. I'll say, let's stay curious, keep on exploring and learning more about Aruba's #1 and most important industry, the tourism industry. And let's keep on spreading that Aruba effect. Allow me to close this one out. This episode is a production of the Aruba Tourism Authority, Sopimixstudio, and Create. Be sure to follow this and other episodes of A.T.A. Talks About on your favorite podcast platform. And until we meet again.